When it comes to learning difficulties like dyslexia, lasting change starts with the right approach. At the Morris Center, we go beyond traditional tutoring, offering comprehensive, evidence-based programs that retrain the brain for lifelong success. With over 35 years of experience, we've helped thousands of clients overcome learning challenges in just months, not years. Find out how we can help your child succeed at themorriscenter.com.
This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Moms Show. Your host, Felice Gerwitz, is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions, from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at mediaangels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Discover quick, healthy, kid-friendly meal prep hacks for busy homeschool moms. Today you're going to learn one-pot recipes, freezer meals, and no-cook options using organic, farm-to-table ingredients, plus budget-friendly tips for summer. Are you ready for quick meal planning? Well, join me, Felice Gerwitz, on the Vintage Homeschool Moms Show, the first in a series of summer shortcuts. Today, our topic is quick meal planning for busy summer days. This is episode 560, and this is Vintage Homeschool Moms. I want to welcome you today. Thanks so much for joining me. And I was thinking about the summer and what is it that moms need? And I just thought, shortcuts. Of course, we all need something that is going to help us to save time because we want to spend as much time as we can outdoors, especially when the weather is so gorgeous. So if you're new to Vintage Homeschool Moms, my name is Felice Gerwitz. I homeschooled for quite a few number of years and finished my journey in 2018. Gosh, I can't even believe it was that long ago that I finished homeschooling. I actually started in 1996. I know that is so long ago. But I spent many, many happy years homeschooling with my kids. And when my journey was over, I thought, oh gosh, actually before my journey was over, I thought, you know what? I want to share my passion with homeschool moms. And so that's why I created Vintage Homeschool Moms. So again, if you're new and joining me for the first time, thanks so much for stopping by. And if you have been a longtime listener, welcome back, friend. I feel like I've gotten to know many of you through the years via social media, some of the emails I get, and it is always such a pleasure to walk along beside you. I want to thank Judson College for their sponsorship of this episode. And I was looking at their website, and it says their mission is to equip students to give their lives for the cause of Christ in the church, among the nations, and in every aspect of society. Well, praise God for that. If you want an authentically Christian college, visit judsoncollege.com. And if you get a chance, tell them that you heard about it on the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network and especially Vintage Homeschool Moms. For those of you who have listened in and followed me for some time, you know I love to cook, and I'm always experimenting with new things. And so I'm going to be sharing some of the shortcuts I found in making yogurt, which I love homemade yogurt. I am a dairy person. And also in making sourdough. There are so many complicated recipes out there, and I have finally narrowed it down to something that can actually be made in one day. And so you can be serving your family fresh bread on a daily basis if you like sourdough. And if you want to learn these things, they're coming up soon. Today I'm going to focus on summer. You know, summer is packed with adventures, nature walks, co-ops, and spontaneous backyard picnics. But keeping your kids fueled and healthy with organic meals can be overwhelming. if you're following the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, you are noting that it has been eye-opening. And I've been following this for some time. Actually, my mother died in 1999. And as I record this, I hope I don't get weepy here. But I have a picture of her in front of my computer. And this picture is of a commercial she did. My mother and dad owned an Italian restaurant where I get my love of cooking and baking from. And so one of the groups of people that used to come to the restaurant, and they'd have meals catered as well, was from a movie studio that recorded in my town. And so my mom was always big on eating healthy and the Mediterranean diet and, not a whole lot of sweets, mostly fruits and that sort of thing. And so when she died in 1999, which was, in her early 70s, I was appalled and just said to my brother, you know what? We have to look at our diet and what we're eating. So I actually started really looking at organic foods and getting rid of all of the processed foods. And I used to love those quick mixes where you just add an egg or you just add water and you can just whip it up, or cake mixes and things like that. And so I have really spent a long time through the years of getting all of that junk out of my home. So if you can, I'm going to share with you some tips on saving money, because I know our organic foods can be so much more money. But there are a lot of smaller farms. I don't know if you're living in New York City, you're going to say to me, Felice, we don't have any farms here. But you also can buy in food co-ops. And I used to run one some years ago. And I would get food in bulk, and then we would all split it up. And that was a wonderful way to save money on organics. So our focus is going to be on shortcuts that are easy, some freezer meals, and no-cook options that are kid-friendly. And I looked for wholesome ingredients that your kids would actually eat. My kids were never big sweet potato lovers, and maybe yours are. So I always switched out a regular potato for a sweet potato. But you can look at these menus and say, oh gosh, I would rather have this or that added to it. And that's what a recipe is, right? We can, wherever possible, switch things out with things that our kids love. And so I am going to ask you to sit back. You can pour some iced tea or lemonade and relax, because I'm going to share with you some budget tips and some shoestring ideas for medium budgets as well. All right, I know. Your kids want mac and cheese, hot dogs, chicken fingers, or hamburgers. Believe me, my grandkids come to visit, and the first thing they ask is, Grandma, what are we having for dinner? And so I told them, I said, I love you. And they go, oh, I love you too, Grandma. And I go, well, when you come in, you have to say, I love you, Grandma. Give me a hug, and then you can ask me what we're having for dinner. So I've got the kids saying that when they come in. But I always tease them, and I'll say, well, we're having liver, or we're having, I'll think of something that I know that they're not going to like. And then I just look at them and say, does Grandma ever make you anything you don't like? And basically, they like a lot of different things. In fact, they have learned to love grass-fed beef, unfortunately, because now just a few of them would eat steak, and now a lot of them like to eat it. So we do lots of grilling of burgers and things like that. But when my kids were growing up, they just wanted a grilled cheese sandwich or peanut butter and jelly. Or my favorite, was a ham and cheese with ketchup. Yes, that's gross. So there's no accounting for kids' taste, but one of the latest trends I've noticed is adding veggies into your kids' food. Once it's cooked, they often can't taste it. So see what you think, and if it makes sense to you, go ahead and use some of these recipes. They're listed on my show note page, and you can go to Vintage Homeschool Moms, look for episode 560, Quick Meal Planning for Busy Summer Days. Years ago, I worked hard at my organic baking. I would grind my own wheat, which I still do a little bit of now, and I would bake bread, rolls, and cooking a mostly Mediterranean diet. After all, I am Italian. My kids loved pasta, bread, salads, and of course, burgers, steak, and chicken on the grill. Yet in the summer, I wanted even more shortcuts than that. One of the things I love to do is bulk cook. And so I'm going to gear up and make some lasagna upcoming. And then when I do, I'll make 3 or 4 trays of lasagna, and then I wrap it really well and I freeze it. And that can last in the freezer up to 6 months or even longer. So it is so nice to be able to just cook one time, make a big mess in your kitchen, and then take a break. And meal planning is important in the summer months because we're so busy. A lot of times we say, oh, I can't wait till summer so I can relax. And then there's so many things going on. So usually we just get started on something and one of the kids is saying, I'm hungry. So we need meals that are quick, nutritious, and appealing for that picky eater. One of the things we did with our children was tell them that they had to try at least one new thing if it was presented every meal. And so not every meal had one new thing, but if it was, they had to taste just a little bit of it because you can't say, I don't like it if you've never tasted it. And over time, it was amazing that my kids started liking more and more things. So when I made fajitas, in fact, they liked the stir-fried peppers and onions. My husband still doesn't like peppers and onions, but all of my kids do. So it is really important to at least get them to try something new. Also, a lot of times we can look at organic foods and just be appalled at the price. Locally, we have a farmer's market that comes in once a week. You can use local produce from a farmer's market or eggs from a local farm. And you're nourishing your family with quality when you do that. My daughter has chickens and keeps me supplied with fresh eggs. Another family in my neighborhood sells eggs as well. If you're in the city, there are other options, so don't worry. You don't need a big budget or fancy skills because today's hacks are all about simplicity and flavor. So the first shortcut is going to be one-pot recipes. I love the Instapot or just using the stovetop. One-pot recipes are game changers, and so you can just use one pot. There's minimal cleanup, and it's perfect for that busy summer evening. And so see what you think. There's a few options that I have listed out here. One of them is creamy veggie pasta primavera. So basically you're taking a pound of organic semolina pasta. Look for semolina from Italy if available because their pastas really are easy on the stomach. You can dice the zucchini, get cherry tomatoes and cut them in half or even smaller if you don't want your kids to see it, and a cup of diced spinach. And you put that in a pot with 32 ounces of crushed tomatoes and 1/4 to 1/2 cup of organic cream. You cook it over medium heat until the pasta is tender. Now, I would leave the cream out until the end. That's 10 to 12 minutes, stirring occasionally. If you want to make it a little bit less fattening, what I would do is cook the pasta first, and then you would pour out the starchy water and then do the same recipe, just putting in all of the fruits, the vegetables, and the tomatoes, and then cooking that until it is cooked through, and then adding the cream. I also like to add fresh basil. I grow it in pots in my garden, and it is so good. You can also take fresh basil and wash it really well when it's ready and you've picked it, and then I lay it on paper towels and then freeze it flat, or you can freeze it in a freezer bag. And then when you need it, you just crush it in the bag and then just sprinkle it onto your food, and it stays fresh. And you can sprinkle your food with the raw milk Romano or put it on the side. Again, my husband's a picky eater in our family. He doesn't like it. The kids love it. For extra protein, you can add meatballs, and I have that recipe below in just a few minutes. Chicken and potato skillet is another one. You can saute free-range chicken breasts with 2 cups of organic potatoes or sweet potatoes in 2 tablespoons of non-flavored coconut or avocado oil. The new craze now is on tallow. If you're using beef tallow, it may have some flavor to it. So just be careful if you are. And then you can mince 2 garlic cloves, a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and you cook it over medium heat for 15 to 20 minutes and then stir occasionally. And then I usually put a lid on it and turn the heat way down. And when the chicken is cooked through and the potatoes are tender, you are ready to go. Mine will still ask for ketchup on the side, but we celebrate the small wins, right? I also have a recipe for chicken veggie soup, which I'm going to list on the website. Skillet burgers with a vegetable or a veggie medley, and then a beef and veggie taco skillet. So those are all on the show notes on the website. You can check that out. A fun tip is check your local farmers market for deals on seasonal produce. Sometimes you can find seconds or slightly imperfect veggies that are budget friendly and ideal for the recipes. I know there are mail order veggies and things you can buy, and I don't really know a lot about that. So if you're having a hard time getting fresh produce, that might be the way to go. I would just make sure that it was something that does not have the GMOs, the genetically modified organisms, although I hope that this healthy movement gets going, because now I hear that they're even trying to make wheat genetically modified. The reason that they do that is so that it can withstand the pesticides they use, because whenever you spray a pesticide on all the weeds and the plant dies. So that's one of the reasons they made these organisms be able to withstand the pesticides, which are all on the foods to counteract the bugs. So I know it gets very disheartening when I talk about it. All right, meal prep shortcut number 2, freezer meals. Here's a quick tip. Whenever you are cooking and you decide, I'm going to double this recipe, more so food than what we need, just decide to freeze half, and there you go. But I have some recipes that I've listed for stuffed bell peppers, which I absolutely love, and my sure to please meatballs, chicken veggie nuggets, and mini veggie frittatas. I'm going to share with you on air my meatball recipe because I love this one. So my dad taught me this years and years ago, and this is how he made his meatballs in the restaurant. He used equal parts of ground beef, ground pork, and ground veal for extra flavor. You can use ground lamb if you can't find the veal, and it's very difficult to find the veal sometimes, and it's very expensive. So you kind of have to look for that. So I try to use grass-fed, beef whenever I can get it. And so you can mix the 3 pounds of beef with a half a cup of organic breadcrumbs, a half a cup of finely chopped fresh parsley. Again, I try to get the organic, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and 2 eggs. And so I mix all that up and typically end up using my hands. And then I form them into 1-inch balls or larger. And sometimes I make them larger, and if they're too big, we just cut them in half. And you can place them on a baking sheet and bake for 400 degrees for 20 minutes or until the internal temperature reaches 160. One of the other things that I do add, and if you want them to be super, super yummy, then you would add 1/4 of a cup of the Romano cheese. Now, I like Romano because I grew up with that over the Parmesan, but either one is good. And then, so you bake it and you can let it sit and cool off. And then I freeze those as well. They make great hoagies and they pair wonderfully with pasta. So it's one of my favorite go-tos when we are super busy. So when making dinner again, double the recipe and freeze half, and it's a very sure way to build up your freezer stash. I'm getting a little low now, so I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to come up with some new recipes, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast. Meal prep shortcut number 3 is no cook options. So we've got all kinds of things that you can make, but one of my favorites, and I've got them in the show notes, is the rainbow veggie wraps, the fruit and nut energy bites, which we've been making a lot of lately, and the caprese salad skewers. And I'm going to talk about this because the kids love to make these. So I bought skewers when they were on sale, and I just had an overload of them. So I bought some things, and my sister-in-law came over one time, and she brought these little appetizers, and the kids were eating them. And I'm thinking, gosh, they don't even like half of that stuff on there. But because it was on a stick and it looked super fun, they ate it. So it had a cherry tomato, a small little mozzarella ball. I think she even cut those in half, some fresh basil, and she drizzled it with olive oil and balsamic vinegar. The kids called it food on a stick. And then they even added cubes of ham when they made it for themselves at home. We do the same thing with fruit on a stick. You use strawberries, blueberries, melon, and pineapples, and the kids love to help prep these treats as well. My other favorite is yogurt parfait jars, and I would layer organic yogurt with a half a cup of fresh blueberries, a fourth of a cup of homemade granola, and you can drizzle honey in it if you like. If you are doing these ahead of time, leave out the granola, and it's great for breakfast or dessert. And I'm going to share with you my super simple yogurt that you can make in your Instapot in another podcast. So you can stock up on reusable containers for no-cook meals, and they're perfect for road trips. I look for mason jars whenever they're on sale. I have all different kinds and all different sizes, and I bought these plastic kind of bins, I guess, and so I stack them in there, so they're really easy to keep on my shelf in the closet without taking up a lot of room. Of course, grilling is my favorite thing, and so during the summer, we use foil wrap meals, but I'm going to share with you what I do with the foil meals because I don't want to have foil near my food. I will wrap the food in parchment paper, and I have the foil on the bottom, the parchment paper, the food, and then the food is touching the parchment paper, and I try to get them bleached before I wrap it up with the foil. One of our favorites is the chicken veggie foil packs. So you put a pound of cubed chicken breast, a cup of diced potatoes, a cup of sliced carrots, and a teaspoon of fresh thyme. If your family doesn't like thyme, you can use a little bit of garlic powder and just salt and pepper. And you can put it on a large sheet of foil and do that. The kids like to do their own. So what I would do is I would, keep the chicken and the potatoes separate. And then I'd put the carrots and whatever else. Sometimes I would chop up some onion, some celery, and have that as well because it all cooks down. And then let the kids make their own individual ones. Again, avoid direct contact between the food and foil whenever possible. And then you can drizzle a tablespoon of olive oil and season it with salt and pepper and seal it tightly. Grill it over medium heat at 400 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. You can flip it halfway through until the chicken reaches 165 degrees. And the kids love having their own foil meals. I have some other ones with stew meat and veggie foil packs, and you can also make these ahead and put them in the refrigerator to grill later. Budget-friendly tips are as follows. Organic farm-to-table meals can fit a budget with a little bit of planning. So shop seasonally. Summer squash and tomatoes are cheapest at the farmer's market now. You can grow herbs, a pot of basil and thyme for pennies on the dollar. And you can buy in bulk. You can get organic oats or beans or grains from co-ops to save. I use Thrive Market, and I am going to put my code in the show notes if you want to use it to get your own subscription. You do pay for a subscription, but if you order enough, you can get free shipping, and you can even subscribe to things so you can get it on auto ship. I tend to go there for a lot of my bulk items that I buy. I buy at Thrive, and they even have like really good olive oil and things like that. Use your scraps. You can turn veggie peels into broth and stretch your ingredients. I have some meat bones on order from a beef grass-fed company. So that's my other thing I'm going to try because I love beef vegetable soup. But I have had a really difficult time with the beef broths. Just don't taste really good, even though I have one that Better Than Bouillon that I really like a lot, and I make a lot of, I use that as a base for gravy and things like that. But it's just, for me, I don't know, the taste is throwing my soup off. So to make your budget stretch a little bit further, you can join co-ops. You can buy whole animals. I have tried to price that, and it's out of our budget right now. But you can get things like chicken and things like that for less money if you buy it in bulk. We are part of a dairy co-op, so we get grass-fed cheeses and milks, and they have cottage cheese and kefir and all kinds of things, yogurts. So you can join a co-op to get your milk for cheaper, and I use that as a basis for a lot of recipes. And you can just price out different things and just buy small amounts and stack up. That's what I do. I was at the store the other day, and I saw a little bit lower quality of steak than I typically buy, but it was on sale for 50% off. So guess what? We are going to tenderize that steak, and I'll season it and let it sit. And yes, it won't be as tender as the normal meat we like to eat, but for 50% off, I am not going to complain. Same thing when I was at the grocery store today. I was able to get ricotta at 50% off. And ricotta actually freezes well, but I'm going to be making batches of lasagna. And so when I do that, I use quite a bit of ricotta, and I have already been stacking up on the mozzarella. I buy it in blocks and I shred it myself. And so you're thinking, oh my gosh, that would be spending all day in the kitchen. Well, when my kids were younger, and even when my grandkids come over, we do spend a lot of time in the kitchen, but we learn and do so much math and thinking skills and trial and error, and science comes into it, so it really is a wonderful learning experience, and it is building memories. Every one of my kids, except for my oldest, is a good cook, and they learned it because I didn't shoo them away from the kitchen. Yes, it's more difficult and it takes longer, but if your kids like to be in the kitchen with you, please encourage them to do that. Smart shopping means healthy meals without the stress, and I hope you're ready to conquer summer meal planning with these hacks. From one-pot soups to foil-wrapped grill packs, you've got plenty of kid-friendly, organic options to keep your family happy. Try one this week and share your thoughts with me at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com, or you can tag me on social media, Felice Gerwitz on Facebook. We also have a podcast family page that I invite you to join. Please share this episode with a friend if you've enjoyed it. And next week, we are going to explore summer learning activities to keep your kids curious. I'll either be doing that one or the one on yogurt. I haven't decided yet, so I'm going to keep those options open. Until then, happy homeschooling during the summer, and keep those meals fresh and simple. Take care, everyone. God bless, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.